Hello, what's going on, everybody? The Midweek Report is here, January 10th, 2024. We are here. The boxing source is here. We need to talk about this stuff that's been going on the boxing scene, man. And, we want to be able to get your takes on what's been happening. You'll be able to get my takes on what's happening, and, you'll be able to get more stuff in reference to boxing news. Pretty much like had a very busy day here today. I had finished up an interview with Otto Walim. Salute to Thomas Morris jumping in here, real quick on the boxing source midweek report. Like I said before, I had something there with Otto Walim, so I'm working on getting that posted here on the YouTube channel, and also, working on more interviews for tomorrow. So, once I get those secured, I'll be able to, post the clips up for that too. But we need to get right into it, man. The pretty much the buzz over the past couple of days. This is coming off of me kind of talking about what was going on with Errol Spence Jr. and how his potential rematch with Terence Crawford could be in jeopardy or delayed here for a bit, given his cataract surgery. Now you got these comments from the Lineal or Ring Magazine or whatever you want to call it. Super lightweight champion, the WBO super lightweight champion, Teofimo Lopez, that, was on Boxing Social with, Michelle Phelps, saying that he would want to face Terence Crawford, the undisputed welterweight champion, Terence Crawford. He said, hey, I'm wanting to face him at 147. He said, when I was, the champion, when I beat, Lomachenko at 135, I said that I was willing to, go ahead and face Terence Crawford then. So he's like, why not go ahead and fight Terence Crawford now? And the biggest thing here is, hey, you know what? Hey, look at all of the guys that you fought here at 147. He said all of your fighters at 147 were handicapped. He brought up Jose Benavidez Jr. He brought up, like I said, the recent thing there with Errol Spence Jr. He brought, Kell Brook there and everything like that too. So that was just something that was very bold, from Teofimo Lopez when he was saying that. A real quick shout out to Outlaw in the building here. What he says here, Cruz will pass up on the Garcia fight, $1 million only to fight tune-ups and wait on Tank. Now he wants the Garcia fight. Oh man, yeah. There was that little occasion where Isaac Cruz could have fought Ryan Garcia in the past, and he kind of passed on that a little bit, but we'll be able to get into that there a little bit more here later on down. But I wanted to get back into this joint here for Terence Crawford and Teofimo Lopez. Now, Teofimo, he does have, something coming up here in February. He does have to face Jermaine Ortiz in February. That's supposed to be for Super Bowl weekend, in Las Vegas, or whatever it is. I had mentioned this before for this particular bout. This is similar to what we saw in the situation with Shakur Stevenson fighting on Thursday. So looks like they're trying to have Teofimo Lopez fighting on a Thursday against Jermaine Ortiz. It looks like a freebie for Top Rank. It's like, they're giving them money to, basically hold an event there during the weekend, and just, hoping that folks that are coming in for the Super Bowl will be able to catch those fights. But the main thing here, Teofimo Lopez, man, now saying that he will want a piece of Terence Crawford. He said that he would be willing to go up to 147. He's come from 135. He faced a top guy 135. He was able to defeat the top guy 135 at the time in Vasily Lomachenko, then moved up to 140. After a couple fights at 140, he was able to beat the top guy in Josh Taylor at 140. Now he has, another fight coming up here against Jermaine Ortiz at 140. There has been, rumblings about him, potentially facing maybe Devin Haney, or, even something where you had him potentially fighting Subriel Matias in a unification bout at 140. but now he says that he wants to challenge the pretty much the number one pound for pound fighter in Terence Crawford, man. I mean, I'm like, come on, yo. Like, this is something where he's kind of like stepping up and stepping out there to face Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, coming off his, performance against Errol Spence Jr. to win the undisputed welterweight titles, still undefeated there in his professional career, So he's, Terence Crawford has kind of been, looking for, big events, big fights. He's talked about, potential rematch with Errol Spence. He's also talked about, facing Canelo Alvarez or Jamel Charlo. So something like this from Teofimo Lopez, might not look like it's all too, good, therefore, Terence Crawford to kind of like go, towards that. But, the thing about it is that, usually when it comes to big events, if there's like enough interest for it, then hey, it could come through or come forward with it, But thing about it is, man, is that I really don't see like where this comes at, you know what I'm saying? But Teofimo had like made his his responses to to Terence Crawford, man, because they've been going back and forth on Twitter, man. You see, man, I mean, like, come on, man. Like, this is something, man. Let me see. I'll try to see if I can share the joints here on the Twitter feed because they've been going at it, man. They've definitely been going at it. Let me see here, yo. I'm gonna see if I can pull this joint up because this is wild, yo. Definitely wild. Let's see, man. I'm gonna jump on this thing and share this joint here with what Terence Crawford said. So pretty much there it is, man. And he said, "Hey, you better worry about them fighters that's there in your weight class." And he says, "Crazy. Every time I see you, you don't even look my way. But when you're in front of a camera, you got so much to say." Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Yeah. Uh, so there you go, man. That's that's something there that Terence Crawford said just recently. What is it like about 6 p.m. Eastern time, man? So that that's just recently. You know what I'm saying? And then what does this thing say, man? Now you had the thing there with Teofimo Lopez responding and said, "Time will tell. You also need to focus on getting yourself out of that trap contract you in with Errol Spence and Al Heyman." Jeez, man, come on, man, come on, yo. Like, see now this is the type of stuff that we be seeing there, at the at the joint where you got these guys going back and forth on Twitter, man, whether it's these two or how Terence Crawford and Errol Spence was going back and forth, and you got all the stuff that's going on at 135 or whatever it is. But that's the thing about it, man. And Teofimo Lopez, pretty much like said something at the little end, giving Terence Crawford a little jab after Crawford posted like, "This is 2 times first to do it." And then Teofimo responds by saying, "And he still ain't win Fighter of the Year." Oh my goodness. That's kind of bad right there. I mean, hey, Boxing Source Fighter of the Year, it was Naoya Inoue. So I mean, I guess Teofimo Lopez was right on that, but still, man, like, Lopez, looks like he's trying to grab headlines. What was it? It was like last year. Last was when at one point you spoke with Tio, and he made the comment of in reference to Tank Davis that he said like Tank isn't even a real boxer. So he's kind of been that type of guy to make those type of comments and get a large response, whether from fighters or from fans themselves. So you do have that. Let's see there, man. He said Spence having surgery 5 months out after the fight is suspicious. I don't know about that. I'll put it to you this way, there, Outlaw. There's too much money involved, or there would be too much money involved, for anyone to, get out of the fight. I mean, I'll just say that. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, man, Spence just getting that surgery. They said it ain't, it's just like a regular routine, regular procedure for many that has folks out for like a couple months. So it ain't really like that much is going on. Plus, you still have the whole situation of all the fights that have to be secured under the new deal with Amazon Prime. So you got to have, what is it? You already got something for March. They don't have like anything. Looks like nothing's planned until March at the very least. So after that, you got to see, okay, what are you going to fit in for April? What are you going to fit in for May, June, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's like he said, hey, why not just go ahead and go forward with this surgery now? You know what I mean? But like I was, discussing earlier in the video, I said, well, this is kind of like the same situation that Errol Spence was dealing with before he was supposed to fight Manny Pacquiao, and then he had to, be on the shelf for that Manny Pacquiao fight, and ended up scrapping that. So him, being the competitor that he is, he wants to make sure that he's, at his optimal form here before having a rematch against Terence Crawford. I don't think he's saying that he, like Spence, the competitor he is, he's not going to get out of the Terence Crawford fight. Like, I mean, initially, like, remember, he was the one that said, hey, I'm not fighting anybody else after Yordenis Ugas outside of Terence Crawford. That was the only fight that he wanted, and he wouldn't stop or he wouldn't accept anybody else. So, for him to do that, go ahead with the first fight, and then still say, hey, you know what? Want to run it again? Let's run it again. So we cool on that. So you know what I mean. Big ups to our guest jumping in here, the boxing academic here on the Midweek Report, here to chop it up here for a little bit, man. Boxing academic, what's good with you, man?
Not much, sir. I know I hadn't seen you in a while, so sorry I missed the end of your show. I make those just to kind of hear who won the awards, but I was listening, and I was there in spirit, but I had some other stuff going on, but glad to be on the show.
Yeah, man. That was December 31st. So with the New Year's Eve, folks was ready to see if they had plans to do what they had to do there before the turn of the new year. So it ain't no problem with that. And yeah, I had put out my awards for fighter of the year, and so on and so forth. So you do have that. But now, yeah, we're back here in 2024 in the Midweek Report, and we got a couple of big topics here. The first joint here is Tio calling out Terence Crawford. Like I said, I know he has an upcoming bout here in February against Jermaine Ortiz, but he's looking to make big headlines or make big events, and so he said, why not go ahead and go after Terence Crawford? So, that's what he's pretty much doing here with that call out that he had yesterday, and now recently having a back and forth on Twitter with Terence Crawford, man. So. What do you think about Teofimo Lopez's actions here with this, man?
One question before I answer: did Terence Crawford actually respond to him?
He did on Twitter. Let me see if I'll be able to pull it up again here.
It'd be interesting to know what he said, because this will also factor into my opinion. My opinion gonna be in the same hemisphere, but whatever he said will factor in.
Oh well, yeah. I'll bring it back up here again. Let me see here. This should do it right here, man. And he said, yeah, yeah. So there it is, man. He basically said, like, might as well just stay there where your weight class is, man. He said every time he see you, you don't even look his way, but when he's in front of the camera, he also a lot to say. So that's what that's what Crawford was saying on Twitter, man.
Okay. It's not as worse as I guess as I thought it could have been. So I'm gonna quote a rapper. Um, Juvenile, I believe Juvenile said this. He said, "I hear you talking, and it sound real good." And so I think his message essentially says that I hear you talking and it sounds good, but you need to worry about what you're doing. However, these things are a lose-lose situation because if you do say something, people are going to be like, "Oh, he's all in his feelings or whatever." But if you don't say something, people are going to be like, "Oh, you're scared." But I think his response is so believable that he'll get a pass for responding because if an ant or a little chihuahua barking at you, should you give energy? You know, like why? Like sometimes when you talk about people, like I ask myself, why did I just waste this line or this breath on this person? But I give him a pass because he essentially said, "Stay in your lane and don't worry about the big boys." But yeah, I'm not sure if that's one that you give energy to, and then you just whatever. But obviously Terence Crawford is probably still reeling from the emotional high that comes from him having to, with the fan bases being split, and he's probably so still kind of emotionally high off of that, and people sort of, even though he beat Spence, people are probably still giving him flack or whatever. And then him not winning fighter of the year, at least I don't think he won in ESPN and the major ones. But with him not necessarily winning fighter of the year, I could see him being still emotionally high. But, Terence Crawford proved what he needed to prove. Obviously, there are some things that Spence is saying that, that he's saying that made the fight not be as competitive. But at the end of the day, yeah, Teofimo would get murdered. And even then, Crawford, we know how challenged mentally he can be sometimes. Yeah, don't do that to yourself. Like I get it. He want to bring attention to himself and he trying to be relevant and I guess he need things to like motivate himself.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise he get his little manic allegedly he get in his manic position or whatever. But yeah, sometimes you don't poke the bear because when the bear bites your ass, it's hard to get them teeth off you.
Word. Yeah, you said the whole thing in reference to that whole fighter of the year thing, man. That baby Terence Crawford is kind of bothered by not being chosen as fighter of the year. Like I said, I mean he didn't have the choice for fighter of the year. I picked Naoya Inoue as fighter of the year. Multiple other outlets picked Naoya Inoue as fighter of the year. So maybe he kind of was bothered a little bit by that. But going back to your comment about the thing with Teofimo Lopez and that, yeah, maybe you could like kind of compare it to like a Chihuahua barking, and the response with what Terence Crawford made was like a bulldog or a Rottweiler responding back to him. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to stay in your, like you said, stay in your lane. Stay in your weight class. You don't want to mess with someone like me. So him making that comment was really swift and quick on that aspect. You know what I'm saying? So
He get a pass,
that was,
he get a pass. I'm sorry, he get a pass. But my only gripe is, if a kid talking shit to you, should you respond to the kid as a grown up, knowing you can beat the kid up? Just my like. What's the dude said? I only debate with my equals. Like, you shouldn't give some people a platform because everybody is equal in the eyes of God. Let me say that. You know, I don't want to get canceled like everybody want to cancel you for saying this, but physically, people aren't equal. Everybody has their own differences. We got DNA that makes us different from the next person. We will never be the same as anyone else. We're equal under God, but we ain't the same. We ain't equal physically. We ain't equal mentally. We may be comparable, but nobody's equal mentally. It's just, you know, you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Do you respond? Do you respond to the kid though?
Right. In that quote was from Dr. John Henry Clark. He said, "I only debate my equals. All others I teach." Yeah, that was that one. But yeah, I feel you with, you know, what you're saying there in reference to Terence Crawford, man. I'm like, he's, you know, looking towards, you know, like I said, fights with Errol Spence in a rematch, or fights with Jermell Charlo, or a fight with Canelo Alvarez. Why would he, you know, look down upon or look down on someone like Teofimo Lopez coming up at this particular point? But, you know, I mean, the thing about it is, though, on the same token, like Terence Crawford did come up from, you know, 135 and 140 to go to 147. It's just that the comments that Teofimo Lopez made in reference to Crawford's tenure at 147 up to this point, you know, kind of like, you know, draw some, you know, like drew some eyes towards it, you know, because he said that, you know, he brought up Jose Benavidez, he brought up Kell Brook, he brought up, you know, Errol Spence in his current, you know, situation. So it was like that kind of garnered a little bit of attention, and it garnered, you know, some things from, you know, boxing media, boxing fans, and, you know, eventually Terence Crawford, you know, and I think, you know, while he was able to respond like that, I think that kind of, you know, kind of struck him a little bit because of, you know, how some people view his legacy, and how he's been able to come up from 135, being undisputed at 140, and, you know, now being undisputed at 147. Like, you know, there's still going to be something where he's going to be open to criticism. So it's pretty much like how he responds to that criticism is the main thing.
Can I reply to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So before the Spence fight, I think the criticism was justified. Now, it ain't Terence Crawford's fault that Spence didn't show up, or whatever was wrong with Spence. That ain't Terence Crawford's fault. Terence Crawford did what he was supposed to do. Terence Crawford game plan. Terence Crawford, you know, did what he always do, and Errol Spence wasn't able to take advantage of it. I do believe some of it was that Errol Spence is compromised physically, because, you know, you can look at his physical decay and tell everything ain't there. At the same time, Terence Crawford did what he was supposed to do. Terence Crawford deserved all the accolades that he get. And, you know, you can say whatever you want to say, but the 147 undisputed title, he earned that. He earned the other one, the 140. But his route to 140, we know that one. That one can be marred in you fought not so great competition. And that again ain't his fault. But this time he fought the best guy and he beat him. He beat him handsomely. It ain't his fault. All this other stuff that was going on with him, he did what he was supposed to do. And he deserves credit for that. He deserves credit for doing his part of the bargain of the deal and beating him. He deserves all the accolades and credit in the world. I can see why people, though, you know, again, demerited him in terms of fighter of the year, because the fight didn't live up to the hype. All of the hype, all of the everything that came on the front end of the fight, it didn't live up to it. And so with that letdown, automatically people gonna knock you down a few rungs, even though it wasn't your fault, even though you did everything you were supposed to do. So on that respect, Yeah, I would probably have leaned toward him just because I'm not as convinced in other fighters, but I'm going to leave that alone. Due to my ignorance, I will say that, but
now the thing in reference to that fighter of the year criteria, like I get that you pretty much like performed at what was supposed to be the biggest fight of the year, basically the most anticipated fight of the year, there for the undisputed welterweight title, and you were able to perform the way that you did. But the way that I put it was like it was just one performance there for that year of 2023, and I said it's one thing to have that, but if you do that, then how can you kind of like gauge it from the past? There's been multiple occasions where you can have one fighter that had one great fight in a year, but that doesn't mean that they're a fighter of the year. You know, like in comparison, you had what was it? Alexander Usyk, defeating Anthony Joshua. I mean, he only had like one fight in 2021. He only had one fight in 2022, and those fights were against Anthony Joshua, where he was able to pull off the wins against Joshua in those fights. So would you like kind of like put him as fighter of the year in one of those years over someone like Dimitri Bivol for some who scored a win over Canelo Alvarez and over Zurdo Ramirez in one year? I don't think people would kind of do that. So that's why I kind of put Naoya Inoue up there, because he had the performance against Stephen Fulton and he had the performance against Marlon Tapales, and he became undisputed also in the same year. So that's why I put Inoue there at the top as far as like fighter of the year for 2023.
Your logic is sound. I can't knock your logic. Your logic is sound. The depth and breadth of your work should both be considered. And if you're saying they both got the same accolades, taking away, pound for pound, and taking away different fighters and the level and quality of the fighter, taking away all that stuff and just looking at it face value, they both did the same thing. But like you said, what's his name did it with Terence Crawford only had one fight last year.
That one fight, yep, one fight against Cheryl Spence, and that was the thing. He came in there with, one belt, WBO belt. Errol Spence had the other three. He, beat Spence to get that three. While Inoue went up to, super bantamweight to face, Stephen Fulton, which was pretty much the number one guy at 122. Got two belts, there from Stephen Fulton, and then turned around and got two belts from Marlon Tapales, who, in essence, defeated the, next top guy at 122. So Inoue, in just two fights, beat the two best, available fighters there in this division within that year.
I mean, your logic, nobody, everything's arguable, but you got sound logic. So, I can't knock your logic.
Yeah, so that's how I pretty much like gauged there as far as like who would have been chosen as the the fighter of the year in 2023. But outside of that, you got to give props to the performance for Terence Crawford that he was able to do on last July 29th. But like I said, one fight defining the whole thing, I can't quite kind of give it all to him in that aspect. But yeah, on the thing with Teo though, like I said, headlines, man, it's just headlines, with him. And and for me, just to be honest, I really don't think he'll kind of like test the waters at 147 anytime soon. He just has these moments where he calls out anybody or everybody and says he wants to challenge himself. But as far as like him facing Terence Crawford, yeah, I don't really feel like that's a possibility, man. Really don't.
So you think people look at him disingenuously?
When it comes to stuff like this, yeah, in a sense, because of like, how he approaches a lot of topics, in the past. So, this same Teofimo Lopez that wanted to like kind of compare himself to Canelo Alvarez when both of them were supposedly undisputed champions. So that's the
So I
thing.
got another question. So
Yep.
is Terence Crawford calling out Canelo? Is it also what was the word I just used with Teofimo? I didn't forgot the word I used. Is it also whatever word I just used? I forgot the word. I don't know why I'm having a
Like
brain fart right here. Is it also disingenuous to say him calling out Canelo? Do you think that was disingenuous? And if so, if not, why is it different?
At the time, I felt like it was because I mean you're there. You just conquered the 147-pound division, but now you're considering or thinking about going up to 168 to face the top guy at 168. Like you're gonna skip 154 and 160 and challenge the top guy at 168. Yeah, at the time, I felt like that was way out there because you're going up. You would be potentially going up against the guy that had been considered a long time the top pound for pound fighter up until he had the loss to Dimitri Bivol, and now yes, you are now at number one pound for pound, but like they say, there are weight classes for a reason, and sometimes like jumping up multiple weight classes, that's kind of a stretch. I mean, we've seen that with Jamel Charlo going up to 168 to face Canelo. Like he really couldn't harm Canelo. So at right now, I really don't see where Crawford could do something, even with his abilities, could really do something to seriously affect Canelo Alvarez at this point. So that's something. I mean, and that's a much bigger jump than going from 140 to 147, which is what Terence Crawford just did. So that's
Yeah,
how I feel on that, man.
I would consider it closer to being disingenuous than to it being, like a legitimate thing. Would I say I believe him that in his mind he thought he could probably go up there and outbox Canelo? Yeah, I think in his mind he probably actually believed that. But I'm leaning toward it more being disingenuous in that he know you just literally saw not your friend, you just literally saw a guy that you don't like, like you said, couldn't affect him. And while you are exceptional and you probably could hurt him with the right shot, how likely is that though? I mean, maybe it is likely, but like how likely is it? That's I don't know.
Ooh, looks like I just saw something here that could be really, really something that just happened. What, man? It's just within an hour ago. He said, "We got something from Boots Ennis, man. Yeah, I'll have to post this, man. I mean, I'm gonna have to show this joint, man, because he's been looking for this. Boots Ennis has been looking for this, man. He said, "Hey, you send it, I'll sign it. Let's go." He's like, "Let's go." Boots Ennis, Terence Crawford, let's go. I mean, if there was like any fight at 147 that people were looking for, if it wasn't going to be Crawford and Spence again, then it would be Crawford versus Boots Ennis. So it's like, why not? Let's go for it. This is probably the best available fight out there for Terence Crawford if it's not Errol Spence. You say, why not? So
And I think
I
in Vegas,
say
Crawford would be favored.
Yeah, Crawford would be favored. Yeah, for sure. But Boots is like saying, "Hey, I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's go." Boots versus Bud. Let's do it. Because you know, I know that you don't really be on a lot of the social forums or whatnot, but there are a good number of people that say that Boots isn't necessarily ready for Terence Crawford, or he shouldn't really be going after Terence Crawford like that or whatever it is. But I'm like, if it's not here at this particular point, then when? You know, it's probably the time is now, because after now, you probably won't get Terence Crawford at 147. You
Yeah,
probably
he
have to
gonna
wait
leave.
till 154. Yeah, he gonna leave. So why not go ahead and have that joint there, man? So definitely looking forward to that, man. And I'm sure that we're going to hear from Jerron in this on camera pretty soon, likely by YSM Sports Media has something on this. So you will see what's going on. I know that there's been a couple of things that have been happening recently around the camp of Jerron Ennis, I think, but I'm not sure if that's kind of what like had pushed this to happen. But I'm really glad to see that Boots has said, like, yeah, let's do this. And I think it's coming from what happened there with Errol Spence. So why not, if you're not gonna have the fight with Errol Spence, or it's not gonna happen as scheduled, and if it has to be delayed a little bit more, then hey, you still got another shot. You got another choice.
And we know who would pay for the fight.
Yep. So I'm like, why not go for that? Like, I don't see any issue with it.
On paper, like you said, it's the best fight that it's the best challenge that could be offered to Terence Crawford on paper, even including a healthy Errol Spence. That's unfortunate, but that's probably the status quo at this point. It's the best fight that could be offered to Terence Crawford. My question, I know Boots got all the tools in the world, but the fact that I just haven't seen him tested, I don't know. I know he ready. I know he believe he ready, which is all that matter. But I just until you get touched by the fire, you don't know when you do get burned if you're gonna keep your hand in the fire, or if you're gonna scream like a bitch and pull it back. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't calling him no bitch. I'm just saying, this a metaphor. But
Yeah, I feel you.
and so do I believe Boots is the type of guy who would keep his hand in there and then clench his fist and be like, "What's up?" I do. I think he would, but we can speculate all day, all in the world. We can speculate all day until we see it. That's something that still got to be a question. Now, if he go in there and he shows that how the young cats outdo the old cats, then I take my hat off to him and say that he the best fighter in the world, because he would be the best fighter in the world. But until he show it against somebody that has an opportunity to beat him, probably even with the Keith Thurman, he would be favored over Keith Thurman, but that would give him the legitimacy to really truly demand the fight and have to deserve the fight. At this point, just out of attrition, does he get to fight? But I would say, though, Keith Thurman deserved to fight before him. Just my opinion on the body of work that Keith Thurman has done. I know he's inactive. I know it may probably be not as great of a fight just because of his inactivity, but out of the body of work, I would say Keith Thurman deserved to fight more than him, but he would probably be the best fight.
Yeah, Keith Thurman, with the accolades, with him being former champion and former unified champion himself, that he does have the accolades to like be up there as far as like who would face Terence Crawford there at 147. But that would be a definite challenge for. I say it would be a definite challenge for Terence Crawford if he does face Jerron Ennis next. Shout out to Maurice Jones, Four Corners Boxing in the building, man. What it do with you? We just chilling here with the boxing talk here. Like I said, Terence Crawford. It looks like he is kind of getting the getting the attention, man. You know, it's so much for folks like kind of saying that he would be the boogeyman, because you got Teofimo Lopez calling him out, and now you got Juan Bucin saying, "Hey, man, if it's out there, if you got it, if you got a contract, if you got an offer, let's go. I'll sign it. Let's do this. I want the shot." You say, hey, and this would be something on top of it too, because check it, right? Like, remember, after Terence Crawford, beat Errol Spence and became, undisputed champion there at 147, like, it didn't take but a couple weeks for the IBF to enforce their mandatory and say, hey, the mandatory has been way past due. Either you got something going on to, make this fight happen, or we're stripping you of the IBF title. And they ended up stripping Crawford of that IBF title. And so now Bruce Ennis is the IBF champion. So I'm like, why not? I'm like, hey, you got folks saying, hey, man, Boots Ennis didn't even earn that IBF belt. They calling them this quote unquote email champion, which I really despise that term. So Boots is like saying, well, hey, listen, I was the mandatory challenger. I was the next in line. So if you're not going to go forward with that rematch with Errol Spence, I'm right here. Like, y'all say I ain't earned this thing? Well, okay. I'll fight the guy that had the belt and say, listen, I'll have my shot with him. Why not go ahead and have it? Let's go. Bruce versus Bud. Why not? Shout out to Bruce Gas in the building, man. Salute to you, my man. Salute to you. Big ups to Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz and more. Y'all can check out, his channel there on YouTube as well, man. Y'all go ahead and share your thoughts, man. Like I said, you recently
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead with the question.
What excuse, and I mean this in the most humble way possible, what excuse do you think Terence Crawford will give to not legitimize this fight? What reason do you think he will give to delegitimize this fight?
Oh, I would money, but like I said, you really don't have that many options out there that could give you, a more lucrative fight. But you did mention one guy. That's Keith Thurman. Like, Keith Thurman would probably give you, more money there for Terence Crawford to fight him. A fight against Jermell Charlo would potentially give him more money, but we still haven't figured out what, like, the whole thing with Jermell Charlo, if that whole thing got cleared up too. So you still have that. The Canelo Alvarez fight, I'm like, that is the one that has the smallest chance of happening there for Terence Crawford, but it's the most lucrative for Terence Crawford. So those are pretty much his options. But given the interest of this, like, I'd say it would be amongst the most interesting fights out there for Terence Crawford, particularly at 147, just below Errol Spence and above when he fought Sean Porter. Because when folks were first hearing that Terence Crawford and Sean Porter could fight, a lot of people were really excited about that, and we're really anticipating that particular fight. So I'd say it's around that same that same level of interest, probably a little bit more, because Boots Ennis is the undefeated, up and coming fighter that folks say that has all the tools. I mean, you've seen a lot of praise for him over the past few years as he's been coming up in the ranks of the 147-pound division. So it would be, you know, somebody that, you know, is at the top against the, you know, the young guard. So I'd say that would be a great little option there, you know.
I mean, he the truth, and I mean, it'd be the most exciting fight that we could see. So let me take my politics hat off and say, yes, I do want to see the fight. As a fan, I do want to see the fight, but I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of faith, which is why I posed my question the way that I posed it. What reason do you think he'll give to make the fight, to delegitimize the fight? Because like, what's his incentive to fight this guy, this lion, this young lion who got all the fire in his heart in the world, and looking up at you, want to knock you out your high perch? What's your incentive to fight him? Like, really? I want to see it, but I know he better get up if he do take this fight.
I kind of get that though, because you know, given about a couple of years ago, when like I said, I mentioned Crawford and Porter, right? Porter was a potential opponent for Boots Ennis then. And you know, they kind of, you know, said, hey, they wouldn't, you know, go forward with it because, you know, they said it's basically business. Like they're, you know, only looking for those, you know, higher profile fights. It you know, the cycle continues. You know what I'm saying? Like you had that, and then before that, you know how folks was talking about, you know, with Floyd Mayweather, you know, not really up to fighting Keith Thurman, you know, because he was the young and up and coming guy, you know, there at the time. So it's almost like the same type of cycle, you know, when it comes to that. But you know, for me, you know, I just feel like that fight is more interesting to me than, at the very least, Crawford going up against Jermell Charlo. I feel like it would be a more interesting fight than that one. And it would kind of like say, and on paper, you could probably put Boots Ennis up there above everyone else that Terence Crawford has faced at 147 outside of Errol Spence going into that fight. So, you know, why not go up against someone like that? And maybe, hey, I'll include probably this thing here with what Teofimo Lopez said about Terence Crawford, right? Hey, he said that Crawford was facing handicapped fighters at 147. So why not face someone that's a full strength 100%? And Jerome Boots Ennis, man. Like, why not? You want to prove Teofimo Lopez wrong? Yeah, go ahead and face Jerome Boots Ennis. How about that? Oh,
Easy to say, harder to do.
Yep, that's true. That's true. You know, and you know, like like I was bringing up before, we still got to figure out like what the direction is for this PBC deal with Amazon Prime. If he's, you know, still, you know, they're working with Al Heyman and stuff like that, then, you know, how would he approach these next couple of fights there, you know, under PBC? It was like, you know, a few fights that he agreed to there while being under PBC or whatnot. So he had his fight here with Errol Spence, and you know, now let's see if the either the rematch goes through, or you could say if there was a certain time period that the rematch was supposed to happen, and now it just does. It may not look like it could happen within that time period. So move forward and go to another fight. You know, and why not go ahead and take a fight with Jerome Boots Ennis? You know, that's pretty much what I'm saying on that one, man. Now just moving forward on this midweek report here real quick, man. you had this other topic of Cruz. Looked like Cruz for like months and months and months. Ever since his first fight with Tank Davis, that he wanted to have a rematch with Tank Davis there, but it looks like according to Jake Donovan of Boxing Scene, that Cruz saying that he is no longer waiting on Tank, and said that Ryan Garcia had been calling us out for the last few fights. And so he says, that's the fight that I want and what my promoter wants for me. He said, call your attorney and quit running. I mean, I kind of like find that interesting there, because Ryan Garcia, has been mentioned for fights against Rolly Romero. I thought it was going to be, some folks thought it would be Devin Haney. Then, Ryan Garcia says, okay, I'm directing my interest towards Rolly Romero. And, now you got Cruz saying that he wants to fight with Ryan Garcia. And I don't know what it is, man. It seems like a lot of these fighters at 140 want to fight against Ryan Garcia, man. But I don't know, like where it's gonna, come out to. But
when you want to fight him too, if he got wide hooks and you throw overhand rights and stuff with him throwing wide left hooks.
Yeah, I guess so. But just engaging with what Cruz does is, Cruz really, talk about wide hooks. Cruz has done that, So I mean, we seen what he did in what was that, Giovanni Cabrera or something like that. Like, man, that fight there was just, that was just bad to me, man. As far as like, because remember, that was supposed to be his his tryout to trying to get a rematch with Tank, and he almost ended up losing that fight. For his sloppy approach, headbutting, clinching, all that type of stuff. And he didn't look good at all against Giovanni Cabrera, and almost lost that fight. And immediately after, like, a lot of people were saying, man, he don't even deserve a rematch with Tank Davis. So, with that being said, man, now if he feels like he's looking elsewhere, all right, cool. But Ryan Garcia, I don't know. It looks like a money move to me. If I was, I thought that he would try to go after one of those vacant titles that's out there at 135, but I guess not.
I don't know. I think that Ryan is flawed enough for him to get them wild shots off. Ryan hold his head up in the sky enough for him to get his shots off. Ryan ain't finna box him on the back foot and keep him away. Ryan gonna be in there swinging them wide hooks, and they may land, but Cruz got a high guard, and maybe one of them may land, maybe 2 or 3 of them may land. But I think that would be a good fight, just because Ryan ain't finna box off the back foot, and Ryan would be there using his hand speed, and Cruz would be there trying to rough him up. Just so off the way that both of them fight, I think it would be at least an interesting fight. Obviously, you got to favor Ryan, but I just think that Ryan's things that he don't do well will make it at least a competitive fight for Cruz.
Yeah, it would make it competitive at sources. Cruz does have an awkward style too, so maybe it could throw off Ryan Garcia there for a little bit. In that Ryan could still get caught with a shot that maybe he wasn't looking out for. So after that, then things could be open there for Cruz in that aspect. But Yeah, I feel like Ryan Garcia should be favored. You know, given his background and things like that. It's just that he, hasn't really refined, what tools he would have in order to, make him more of a, set or complete fighter there with the tools that he would potentially have there, as a fighter at 140 pounds. So, hey, I mean, like that potentially is up in the air. You have Isaac Cruz that's under Manny Pacquiao Promotions, MP Promotions. They're also with Sean Gibbons as their lead representative. So Sean Gibbons would say, hey, why not try to make this fight possible or make this fight happen. Now in the past, it looked like the Garcia's team had offered a fight for Isaac Cruz and Cruz declined. So I kind of like find it interesting that Cruz is now mentioning Garcia's name again. Like what he was saying in the quotes that Ryan Garcia had been calling him out for the last few fights. Well, it's like, okay, but why didn't you answer beforehand or whatever it is, or kind of like go after that particular fight, instead of like Giovanni Cabrera or somebody like that. I don't know, but to kind of like still say that this particular fight is possible would make it still makes it interesting. So we'll see what direction that both of these guys go here. Like I said with Garcia, he was mentioned as a fighter to face Devin Haney or Rolando Romero or some of these other guys on 140. So I don't know, man. Isaac Cruz, yeah, that kind of like would be, at least for me, it would be like a step down to, of course, just step down to Devin Haney, of course. But also Rolly Romero there, that's at 140. So there's that. And we haven't really seen what Isaac Cruz could do at 140 pounds. So he's been there at 135, for his career. So
I mean, it would definitely be a step down for Ryan. Cruz would have everything to win, and Ryan would have everything to lose. So from that point, yeah. But obviously, Ryan sees something that he, at least he think he can beat him, and it's probably with his hand speed, just off the top. But I'm gonna tell you what would be a good fight is if Cruz and Rolly Romero fought.
Yeah, that would be a good fight. But I mean, we'll see, because Rolly Romero might have some Ismael Barroso problems once again. Shout out to Ismael Barroso getting that knockout of O'Hara Davies in one round. So,
yeah. You think? Do you think that it's the Manny Pacquiao going on with Barroso? I don't. You ain't got to answer that straight out. But do you think there could be some screwy stuff going on, or you think he just struck gold?
I think he just struck gold, man. I don't think it's anything with the MP specialist. Some would say, man. Yeah, I think he's kind of struck gold in that aspect, man. Because I mean, he's had like almost every one of his wins have been by knockout, but that's the thing about it. And I don't know if you heard the thing with the O'Hara Davies. Like he gave like a unique explanation as to why he ended up getting blasted that early, man.
What was the explanation?
That he said that there was something up with the casino area, man. He said he couldn't really sleep around the casino. He said
too loud.
He said that he was kept awake by quote extra oxygen pumped into his hotel room. He said that this isn't a conspiracy.
So extra oxygen pumped into his hotel room.
Yeah, leaving him awake the night before his bout against Ismael Barroso.
What oxygen supposed to do now?
I guess it was supposed to it's supposed to mess with your system, so to speak, to where you would stay awake or whatever it is.
Okay, make you alert versus
more alert. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean it could happen, but I ain't saying somebody pumping oxygen in there. That could happen. I'm saying that you could be so anxious to where your adrenaline rushing and you don't get no sleep. But nah, you can't. Yeah, you got knocked out. You can't necessarily use that. You got hit, and
Yep.
senses detached from your brain. You really gonna blame that on sleep? I mean, you slept, but a different form of sleep.
Right, exactly. So I don't know where Davies got came up with something like that. That's just wild there on that part. So but he had the opportunity to try to get a win to be in the mix for a world title shot, but hey, grand opening, grand closing. As what I said with that one. So there's that, man. But that's mostly it for me for this midweek report, man. Big ups to the Box Academic for joining in on the midweek report. Here we got the fight coming up on ESPN and through ESPN Plus. Arthur Beterbiev versus Callum Smith, unified light heavyweight championships on Saturday over in Quebec. So that's going to be a good one for fight fans to look forward to. We'll definitely be talked about it on the podcast. That's Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So hopefully y'all join in for that. And I'll have more content for y'all on the YouTube channel as I get in clips from Otto Wallin, our conversation with Otto Wallin. And I'll have a little bit more here later in the week, hopefully with Gary Antoine Russell. So y'all look forward to that too. So with that being said, that's it for the midweek report, guys. I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.